Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. Pakistan has granted second consular access to serving Indian RAW officer Kulbhushan Jadhav, who was arrested from Balochistan province in 2016. In a statement, Pakistan's Foreign Office said 2 Indian diplomats were allowed to meet Jadhav uninterruptedly. Foreign Office says Islamabad remains committed to implementing the International Court of Justice verdict in the Jadhav case. It expressed hope that India will cooperate with Pakistan in giving full effect to the judgment. During investigation, Jadhav confessed to crimes of espionage and terrorism in Pakistan, after which he was sentenced to death by a court in 2017. Meanwhile, Pakistan says the world must take notice and act to end Indian atrocities in occupied Kashmir. In a media briefing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Aisha Farooqi said physical and digital lockdown has paralyzed the valley. She said Islamabad will continue to support the people of occupied Kashmir morally and diplomatically. Fresh border clashes have erupted between Azerbaijan and Armenia after a brief de-escalation in fighting that started on Sunday. Both the sides have confirmed that the fighting is ongoing and accused each other of unprovoked shelling across the border. No casualties have been reported so far. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. We start our news bulletin from Pakistan, which has granted second consular access to serving Indian RAW officer Kulbhushan Jadhav, who was arrested from Pakistan's Balochistan province in 2016. Jadhav confessed to crimes of espionage and terrorism in Pakistan, after which he was sentenced to death by a court in 2017. In a statement, Pakistan's Foreign Office said 2 Indian diplomats were provided an uninterrupted consular access to the convict. The first consular access to Jadhav was given in September 2019. The Foreign Office expressed hope that New Delhi will cooperate with Islamabad in giving full effect to the said judgment. It said Pakistan is committed to fully implementing the 2019 judgment of the International Court of Justice. In 2019, the ICJ rejected India's plea for annulment of the court decision, along with the release and safe passage to India. Last week, the Indian spy refused to file a review petition and instead preferred to appeal for mercy. The deadline for filing a review plea ends on July the 20th. For more on this, we have with us former Ambassador Mr. Asif Durrani. Thank you for your time. The Indian Army serving spy agency operative and Naval Commander Kulbhushan Jadhav was caught red-handed, but Pakistan followed all the domestic and international legal due process. Pakistan gave consular access in the past as well, but India objected to the modus operandi adopted for it. Why is New Delhi politicizing this instead of appreciating Pakistan's extra efforts to ensure justice?
Consular access is done, and in this regard, especially in the spying case against Kulbhushan Jadhav, it was actually desired by the International Court of Justice. So just to fulfill all the canons of law, Pakistan has complied with that. So there is no room left or no excuses left for India because they took the matter to ICJ. Kulbhushan Jadhav was involved in sabotage activities in Balochistan and Karachi, which he confessed. This has happened probably for the first time that Indian spy was and his activities were made public. So in that respect, the consular access is the prerogative of the state, in this case, which is Pakistan. And the rest, the legal wranglings, I'm not a legal person, but I think they can tell you much better with regard to that.
So, Mr. Durrani, how do you believe Islamabad's extra efforts to ensure justice to a spy who confessed heinous crimes against Pakistan should be received in the international community?
Pakistan has taken a sovereign decision to accept ICJ's request. In ICJ, it is with the consent you go. India took the matter, we accepted. Otherwise, we could have rejected it. But what is the political cost? You take the political gain according to the rules of the politics, international politics. In that respect, I think whatever we have done on the consular access part, that is the right thing to do as per the Vienna Convention. And I think that the results would be positive from Pakistan's point of view. We have been vindicated, and ICJ has not set aside the death sentence for that matter. So government of Pakistan's decision, or its court's decision, has been upheld. But the only issue is to give consular access, which normally a state can give. On the espionage cases, it's again the prerogative of the government. The government may or may not do that, but Pakistan accepted that because Pakistan doesn't have to hide anything. So it has in fact brought in more transparency to the case. So in my view is that it is a good politics, yes.
Former Ambassador Mr. Asif Durrani, thanks for talking to Indus News. We really appreciate that. And we also have with us Major General Ejaz Awan, retired. Thank you for your time at Indus News. First of all, despite Pakistan's acceptance of the ICJ decision, India has not shown any sort of cooperation whatsoever. So what do you make of India's negative attitude?
Well, this is very unfortunate that they are trying to abandon their own person whom India used, because he is a naval officer and working for RAW, and he was given a fake identity, a passport with the name of Mubarak Hussain Patil, whereas now the entire world knows he is Kulbhushan Yadav. The identity, that passport, was truly Indian document and it was not forged or fake. So this shows that it was a state-sponsored terrorism. A mission was given to him and he was launched through a third country, that is Iran. Now all said and done, when they could not prove his innocence in International Court of Justice, and they accepted that he is Mr. Kulbhushan Yadav, an Indian citizen, so we had the document that he is Mr. Mubarak Hussain Patil and was operating under this cover name. Now all said and done, now this, whatever is happening now, India has no face to show. They are absolutely legally defenseless to defend the crime that he has committed, and he was involved in sabotage, murder and espionage cases in Pakistan. So he was given a death penalty from a military court, but then this is now a due process being followed. So government of Pakistan has given them second access, consular access, to defend the individual if they can, and to come up with any evidence that they have in his defense. So I think this is the legal requirement being met, but he would face the trial as per the law of the land.
Okay, General Awan, do you think with Kulbhushan Jadav's case, India is more interested in defaming Pakistan rather than saving his life?
Well, this is very true. They are not, they know they cannot, they are defenseless. They have got no defense to prove as to why he was here, why he was operating under wrong identity or a fake identity that was given to him. And since he has confessed everything, so now they are absolutely defenseless. So instead of defending his life, they want to take a political mileage and they want some diplomatic pressure on Pakistan to get him released from Pakistan, and they want to take him away. But that will not happen because this is how legally he is in our custody, and he has confessed, and all the proofs that he has given, there is a corroborative evidence that is available with Pakistan. but there is a legal requirement since the decision of the military court can be challenged in High Court and then subsequently in the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and at the end of it, he can go for clemency, mercy appeal to the President of Pakistan. So all this requirement would be met in due course of time. So this consular access is a step in that direction.
Major General Ijaz Awan, thanks for talking to Indus News. We really appreciate that. And now moving on, Pakistan says the world must take notice and act to end Indian atrocities in occupied Kashmir. In a media briefing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Aisha Farooqi said physical and digital lockdown has paralyzed the valley. Farooqi said Pakistan will continue to support the people of occupied Kashmir morally and diplomatically. Speaking on Afghanistan, she said Pakistan is committed to playing a positive role in the peace process. The spokesperson said it is important that the US-Taliban agreement is implemented in its entirety. The European Parliament has said it is concerned over India's Citizenship Amendment Bill. President of the European Council, Charles Michel, expressed this concern at the 15th EU-India Summit in Brussels. Addressing a press conference alongside European Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen, Michel said that they had raised the matter of India's citizenship bill earlier as well. He said EU wanted to play a stronger role in changing the balance of power in Asia. The President of the European Council said that the Indian Supreme Court is reviewing the decision. He said that EU expects a balanced verdict. In December, violent protests swept across India against Narendra Modi's citizenship law. Critics claim the law threatens India's status as a secular democracy. The US has reported a new daily record of over 67,500 COVID-19 cases as the toll nears 3.5 million and the death count exceeds 137,000. In Brazil, more than 1,200 people have died and almost 40,000 tested positive in the last 24 hours. The country's death toll has now crossed 75,000 with nearly 2 million cases. Globally, the virus has killed more than 583,000 people while infecting 13.5 million. More in this report.
The coronavirus pandemic is soaring to alarming new highs with record cases being reported from various countries every day. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro continues to hype hydroxychloroquine as a COVID-19 treatment against the World Health Organization and other independent researchers. In the US, Florida state's hospitals have been overwhelmed as the number of COVID-19 patients keeps booming. Governor Ron DeSantis said he is sending 1,000 medical workers to Miami-Dade County to battle the rising cases.
The capacity in terms of beds, as I mentioned, is strong. It really is the personnel that is going to be the key. So I mentioned some of the people that we're deploying to Miami-Dade. We're going to be deploying over 1,000 people throughout the state very soon. We have the capacity to potentially up that to 3,000.
Spain's island of Majorca has banned popular party streets in Magaluf and Palma amidst fears of a second wave. Belgium has postponed further easing of rules on social gatherings after an uptick in the number of infections. Over in Australia, state of Victoria has reported 317 new cases, a record for the country since the epidemic began. Meanwhile, South Africa's cases have crossed 300,000, the most in Africa and amongst the top 10 in the world. While in Kenya, COVID-19 has killed 4 health workers and infected 450.
Health workers handling patients with confirmed or suspected coronavirus disease face an increased risk of exposure to the virus. Some healthcare workers have indeed become infected with the coronavirus in the course of their duties. The ease of transmission of the virus makes this possible.
In Asia, Tokyo's Governor Yuriko Koike says daily cases in the capital are likely to top 280, the highest since the start of the outbreak. South Korea's new infections have bounced back to surpass 60 again as imported cases continue to rise. Meanwhile, Bangladesh has arrested a hospital owner accused of faking thousands of coronavirus test results.
Now talking about Pakistan, where the number of new COVID-19 cases has been declining for the past 2 weeks. The Ministry of Health says 40 people have died, while just over 2,000 tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. The country's death toll has risen to 5,426, with nearly 258,000 infected so far. The ministry said there are over 73,000 active cases in the country, among which 1,942 are critically ill. It said nearly 179,000 people have recovered so far. The southern province of Sindh is the worst hit, with nearly 109,000 infections, while Punjab has reported over 88,000 cases. Kabul says 5 Afghan security force members have been killed and 2 others wounded in clashes with the Taliban in the northern Balkh province. Provincial governor spokesman Munir Ahmed Farhad said the Taliban attacked the Daulatabad district from several directions. Farhad said the clashes lasted for over 2 hours and the Taliban escaped from the area. Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid confirmed the attack but claimed 8 soldiers were killed and 18 others wounded. He said the Taliban also recovered a tank, large number of weapons and ammunition. The NATO has called for the Afghan Taliban to join a humanitarian ceasefire amid the increased levels of violence at present. In a statement by the bloc's political decision-making body, the military alliance called for an Afghan-owned and Afghan-led peace process. It said it was the only way to deliver sustainable peace to the Afghan people and to ensure Afghanistan's long-term security and stability. The bloc called on all the sides to rapidly resolve the remaining issues, still precluding the start of inclusive intra-Afghan negotiations. Fresh border clashes have erupted between Azerbaijan and Armenia after a brief de-escalation in fighting that started on Sunday. Azerbaijan's defense ministry says fighting is ongoing near the border. It accused Armenian forces of attacking its frontline troops and shelling Azerbaijani villages in the Tovuz district bordering Tabriz. But Armenia's defense ministry accused Azeri forces of shelling 2 border villages with mortars and howitzers. No casualties have been reported so far. Since the escalation started on 12th of July, 11 troops from Azerbaijan and 5 Armenian soldiers have been killed in clashes. Turkey says Armenia will pay for its attacks at Azerbaijani border area. Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said Armenia will be drowned under the plot they have started. In a meeting with Azeri military delegation in Ankara, Akar said Turkey is closely following the border clash developments. He said Ankara condemns the attack on the Tovuz region of Azerbaijan. The minister said Turkey and Azerbaijan are one nation and 2 states, sharing common language, religion and history. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan president has fired longtime foreign minister Ilmar Mammadov amid renewed conflict with Armenia. Backing the military, thousands have also demonstrated in Azerbaijan and called for a war with Armenia. Turkey says 7 of its security personnel have been killed after their reconnaissance plane crashed in a mountain in eastern Van province. Talking to media, Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu said 2 pilots and 5 technical personnel were among those killed in the crash. Soylu said the plane crashed at an altitude of 2,200 meters on Mount Athos. He said the 2015 model plane was missioned for surveillance in Van and Hakkari provinces. Soylu said the pilots contacted the tower for the last time when they were around Baskale district. Turkey says it has killed 3 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in airstrikes during Operation Claw Tiger in northern Iraq. The National Defense Ministry said military operations backed by air power were carried out in the Haftanin region. The ministry said Turkey will continue to destroy weapon caches and shelters used by the terrorists. State media said PKK militants often use northern Iraq to plan cross-border terrorist attacks in Turkey. Yesterday, Turkish forces killed 3 PKK fighters in the same region. Turkey holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year terror campaign. The UN has expressed fears of catastrophe if an oil tanker abandoned off Yemen's coast with 1.1 million barrels of crude ruptures into the Red Sea. In a briefing to the UN Security Council, Environment Chief Ignat Anderson said the possible oil spill will devastate marine life and tens of thousands of people who depend on fishing for their livelihood. She said time is running out to act in a coordinated manner to prevent a looming catastrophe. Anderson said the tanker's condition is deteriorating daily, increasing the potential for an oil spill. The Security Council issued a communique expressing its deep alarm at the growing risk. It called on the Houthi rebels to move ahead with granting access to the tanker as soon as possible. The US has downplayed the possibility of another summit between President Donald Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un before the American presidential election. Speaking in Washington, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Trump will only want to engage if there were real prospects of progress. Pompeo said Pyongyang has exhibited an unwilling attitude towards the resolution of issues, but he said the US hopes North Korea changes its mind. Earlier, North Korea said it will no longer give Trump high-profile meetings just to boost his 2020 re-election bid. Beijing has issued a warning to Taiwan after the island had military drills amid increasing tensions with the US in the South China Sea. At a news briefing, the Foreign Ministry spokeswoman said China is determined to maintain its sovereignty and security. Spokeswoman Hua Shunyan said realizing the goal of unification with Taiwan is the general trend for China. Earlier, Taiwan's air, sea and land forces conducted live-fire exercises simulating the repulsion of an invading force. President Tsai Ing-wen said the drills show Taiwan's determination to defend the island. China has summoned the U.S. ambassador to protest at the Hong Kong Autonomy Act passed by the Congress and signed by President Donald Trump. Vice Foreign Minister Zhang Zhingguang met U.S. envoy Terry Branstad and said Beijing will impose retaliatory sanctions against Washington. Earlier in a statement, the Foreign Ministry said the semi-autonomous territory is China's internal affair and no foreign country has the right to interfere. On Tuesday, Trump signed Hong Kong Autonomy Act that revokes license expectations for islands exports and special treatment for territories' passport holders, while the executive order sanctions individuals responsible for undermining Hong Kong democratic processes. Trump said the territory will now be treated the same as mainland China without any special privileges. Tunisian Prime Minister Elias Fakhfakh has resigned from his post after a dispute with his political party Ennahda. A government statement said the Prime Minister handed in his resignation to President Kais Saied. The move comes after the Ennahda party withdrew its support from the government coalition, ending majority support for Fakhfakh. President Saied must now choose a new candidate for Prime Minister as failure to build another coalition can trigger an election. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi says Cairo will not stand idle amid direct threats to Egyptian and Libyan national security. In a statement, the presidency said Sisi met Eastern Libyan tribal leaders in Cairo to express solidarity with them. It said tribal leaders had authorized the president and Egypt's army to intervene in Libya to protect the country's sovereignty. The president said Egypt's main goal in Libya is to activate the free will of the Libyan people. Earlier, Sisi warned that Egypt's army might enter Libya if the Tripoli government and its allies renewed an assault on Sirte. Sudan says water levels in River Nile have dropped as a reservoir behind Ethiopia's Grand Renaissance Dam has filled up. The country hit out at any unilateral actions taken by any party. Sudan and Egypt are located on River Nile downstream and fear the large dam will greatly reduce their access to water. Cairo has also demanded quick official clarification from Addis Ababa. Earlier, Sudan's Information Minister Faisal Saleh said dialogue and a fair solution were needed to resolve the issue. But Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said the country sees the hydroelectric project as crucial for its economic growth. A conflict between the neighboring countries would put millions of civilians at risk. It's time for a short break. I will be back with more stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Britain says Russia tried to interfere in the 2019 general elections by acquiring sensitive documents and leaking them on social media. Foreign Minister Dominic Raab said sensitive documents relating to the UK-US free trade agreement were illicitly acquired before the elections. In a statement, Raab said these documents were disseminated online by Russian actors via the social media platform Reddit. He added that the government reserves the right to respond with appropriate measures in the future. Raab also said it is unacceptable that the Russian intelligence services are targeting those working to combat the coronavirus pandemic. He said London will continue to counter those conducting such cyber attacks and will hold perpetrators to account. Russian President Vladimir Putin has discussed the 2015 nuclear deal with his Iranian counterpart Hassan Rouhani. In a statement, the Kremlin said both the leaders also discussed issues of mutual interest, including the developments in Syria, in a telephonic conversation. It said the two leaders wished to continue coordination to achieve peace and improve the humanitarian situation in Syria. Putin stressed that Iran nuclear deal remains an important agreement which contributes to global stability and security. Rouhani reaffirmed Tehran's commitment to the deal and readiness for the constructive interaction with all its participants. Signed between Iran and P5+1, the deal curbed Tehran's nuclear activities in return for lifting of sanctions. The US, however, withdrew from the agreement in 2018. In Moscow, hundreds have staged a protest against constitutional reforms that paved way for Russian President Vladimir Putin to remain in power till 2036. Police detained dozens of demonstrators after they started to march towards one of the city's main boulevards. Demonstrators held up banners against reforms and called for Putin to resign. People also took to the streets of St. Petersburg against the amendments. Earlier this month, a vote amended Russia's constitution, handing Putin the right to run for 2 more presidential terms. Opposition activists say the vote was illegitimate and that it is time for Putin to step down. In North Macedonia, former Prime Minister Zoran Zaev's Social Democrats have declared victory in the parliamentary elections. The pro-European Union party led the nationwide poll with 36.48% of the vote, with more than 4/5 of ballots counted. The Election Commission says Nationalist Party is second with a 35.47% share of the vote, while the ethnic Albanian Democratic Union of Integration Party was in third place with 10.2% support. The Social Democrats did not attain an outright majority, and with tough coalition talks on the horizon, it could be weeks or longer before a government's formed. Germany's State Minister for Europe, Michael Roth, says he is optimistic that agreement on recovery fund will be made at an EU summit. Speaking after a meeting, Roth said a deal was crucial for the European Union's credibility. He said it was no longer a question of national interests, but strengthening of the bloc as a whole. The minister said Britain has shown insufficient realism regarding the issue. Roth said EU's relations with the UK will be a major topic in the meetings from September onwards. Britain continues to participate in many EU structures until the transition period ends on December the 31st. EU's top court has fined Romania and Ireland for delays and incomplete application of bloc's rules against money laundering and terrorist financing. In a statement, the European Court of Justice said both member states failed to comply with rules adopted by EU in 2015. The court ordered Romania to pay nearly €3 million to European Commission, while Ireland has been fined €2 million. EU's anti-money laundering rules mandate surveillance on banks, lawyers and accountants and transparency on company owners. The European Court of Human Rights has filed a lawsuit by the Netherlands against Russia over the MH17 plane crash. In a statement, the court noted the Malaysian Airlines Boeing crashed over eastern Ukraine on July the 17th, 2014. It said Holland claims the plane was hit by a missile launched from a Buk air defense system that allegedly belonged to Russia. Earlier, a Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said Netherlands' decision to turn to the EU court was another blow to bilateral relations. Maria Zakharova said this step will lead only to further politicization and obstruct the search for truth. Monsoon floods have swamped large parts of India's densely populated eastern states, killing 16 more people. The death toll from floods has now reached 93. The floods have left more than 70 injured in the states of Assam, Bihar and Jharkhand. The deluge also made over 1 million people to take refuge into makeshift shelters despite the risk of coronavirus. Officials say the Brahmaputra River burst its banks in Assam over the weekend, inundating over 2,000 villages. The Disaster Management Authority had said about 4,000 people trapped by the surging floodwaters in various parts of Assam were rescued. Annual monsoon rains hit the region from June to September. Iran has confirmed 198 new fatalities in a day due to the novel coronavirus, bringing the nationwide toll past 13,600. The health ministry said around 2,500 people tested positive for the virus, raising the tally to over 267,000. It added that over 230,000 people have recovered so far, while more than 3,400 patients remain in critical condition. The ministry said areas including the capital Tehran, Fars and Kerman provinces are among the high-risk regions, while Khuzestan, Khorasan, East and West Azerbaijan provinces are in the red zone. Earlier this week, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei called the resurgence of the virus in the country truly tragic. Canada has reopened the CN Tower with COVID-19 safety measures, allowing visitors to scale the heights of Toronto. Completed in 1976, the Canadian National Tower was the world's tallest freestanding structure until 2007. More in this report.
Pretty confident that our staff are safe, our guests are safe.
With multiple observation levels, the CN Tower usually welcomes more than 2 million visitors each year. Before the coronavirus pandemic, the place used to be almost always pretty crowded. However, the social distancing restrictions has limited the number. The staff has been trained to ensure the rules, including wearing masks, are being followed.
So today we're very excited to be welcoming Torontonians and folks back to the CN Tower. This is our opening day. We've spent 4 months in preparation for this. We've done a lot of training of our staff. We've got a lot of safety features in place. So we're really excited to be able to reopen and welcome guests back in a safe way.
Other than the amazing view of the city, the tower offers restaurants and gift shops. Visitors say they are not only satisfied with the safety measures, but enjoy the relative quiet too.
I've only been up here with tons and tons of crowds, so this is amazing to really, I was telling my wife, it feels like a VIP experience almost. So I recommend people come down, take advantage of the low crowd levels. But yeah, I've felt completely safe so far. I love how they've put hand sanitizer stations up, things like that, make you feel safe. So I think it's been great.
Canada's efforts to flatten the curve of COVID-19 cases have put the country on the cusp of zero deaths. But health officials warn lifting restrictions at this moment can cause a resurgence in infections.
Dolce & Gabbana have taken the seat in writing new rules for high-end fashion with first ever physical show since COVID-19. What's new about this show apart from haute couture? Let's find out in this report.
This week in the capital of fashion, Milan, Dolce & Gabbana organized the first ever physical fashion show amid the coronavirus pandemic. No air kissing, no hugs, a safely distanced front row, and face masks were the de rigueur of this fashion engagement. The show was held on the university campus of the Humanitas Medical Research Foundation, which is trying to develop a vaccine against the novel coronavirus, a project Dolce & Gabbana are helping to fund. Designers Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana say they wanted to send a message of optimism and that Italy, one of the countries hardest hit by the pandemic, is back in business. The show was attended by around 200, mostly Italian guests, compared with 500 or more in normal times.
Well, legendary circus show Cirque du Soleil is resuming operations in China. Artists say they are excited to be back on the stage after months. The flips, the twirls and the jaw-dropping leaps and catches of Cirque du Soleil are once again set to captivate its audience. The show, The Land of Fantasy, reopened in the eastern city of Hangzhou on 3rd of June as one of the 2 shows in operation, with another show reopening in Mexico. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Time to take a look at the weather situation from around the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.